Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Last Open the Book of Half Term. We've been thinking this half term all about being kind and stories from the Bible that show kindness. And today's story is another story about Jesus being kind, this time to a man who couldn't see. I want you to listen very carefully and see if you can hear Jesus being kind, and also perhaps hear some people being perhaps a little bit unkind with what they were saying. So let's open the book and let's read, I Can See.
I have a question.
Said one of Jesus's friends.
There's a man here who's been blind since he was born. Did that happen because his parents did something bad?
No,
Said Jesus.
God doesn't punish people by making their children blind. But I'll tell you what, God can use this man's blindness to show us how powerful he is.
And with that, Jesus walked over to the man. He knelt down, he spat on the ground, he made a little bit of mud out of the dirt and spit, and he rubbed it on the blind man's eyes. It was very, very messy.
Now, go and wash your face,
Jesus said to the man,
and you'll be blind no more.
and washed his face, just as Jesus said. And when he shook the water from his hair and opened his eyes, he could see.
We have a question.
Said the people who gathered round him.
Aren't you the blind man who usually goes begging for food?
I am.
Said the man who used to be blind.
Then how can you see?
I met a man named Jesus who rubbed mud in my eyes.
The crowd was amazed. They were ready to cheer. And then someone else spoke up.
Excuse me, I have a question too.
This someone was a religious teacher who didn't much like Jesus. Why? Because Jesus was too popular and didn't always agree with what the other teachers said.
Jesus healed you, and he did it today.
The teacher asked.
That's right.
Said the man.
Well, today is the day of rest, the special day God himself set aside, the day on which no one is allowed to work. But healing is work, surely. So how can this Jesus be on God's side if he breaks God's law?
I don't know,
Said the man.
but I can see.
Because a bad man made you well. How can a bad man do a good thing like that?
That's what I want to know.
Said another man. And they asked the man who used to be blind all kinds of questions.
Were you really blind? Were you pretending?
Who is this Jesus anyway?
It was all too much for the man who used to be blind.
Listen,
He shouted.
I don't know the answer to all your questions, but I do know this. Once I was blind, and now I can see. Who but someone sent by God could do a thing like that?
A little later, as the man was sitting by himself, Jesus came to see him.
I know it's been a hard day,
Said Jesus.
but I've got a question too. Do you believe that God sent me?
I do.
Said the man.
I really do.
Jesus
Then
smiled.
no more questions.
Wasn't that a lovely story, how Jesus healed the blind man? Did you notice that teacher of the law, that religious leader, wasn't very happy, was he? Because he didn't like the fact that Jesus was breaking the rules by healing somebody on the day of rest, on what was called the Sabbath day in Jewish law. And Jesus didn't care about that because Jesus wanted to help people. He didn't mind what day of the week it was. He didn't mind what rule he broke. if he was being kind to other people, and he was kind to the blind man. That blind man must have been so happy that he could heal again. And so I hope what we've learned from all the stories in Open the Book this half term is that the most important thing in life is to be kind. To be kind no matter what the cost to ourselves, even if it means that we are going to get laughed at, or we are perhaps going to be told off maybe in some way for being kind. There's nothing quite as important as being kind to somebody else. Let's just think for a moment about the times when we have been kind to other people, or when someone has been kind to us. And we're going to close our eyes and say thank you to God for people who are kind to us. Let's close our eyes and say a prayer together. And if you want to join me at the end by saying amen, that would be good. Dear God, thank you because you set us an example to show what kindness is. How to be kind to strangers, how to be kind to people we don't always like, how to be kind to everyone. Help us to be kind when we can. Thank you for the people who are kind to us. Thank you for the people who help us out when we need help. And thank you most of all because we know that you are always kind. Amen.
Amen.
Well, have a lovely half term, everybody. And Open the Book will be back after half term with a new series of stories leading up to that quite big festival in a couple of months' time when we celebrate the birth of Jesus. I'm not going to say the word now, but we look forward to starting our stories looking towards that big festival time. So have a fantastic half term from everybody on the Open the Book team. Bye.